Good morning, welcome back to the Simplistic Kitchen. So we've had our sourdough loaf dough in the fridge overnight. As you can see, it's more than doubled in size. It's got some lovely big airy bubbles there. So now we're just going to put it onto some flour. Take the dough out. It's going to be quite wet, the dough, and that's right, that's how it should be. Okay, so you're going to need a fair bit of flour. Okay. Give it another little dusting. Okay, so we've turned it out onto the board. We're going to quite heavily flour it because it's quite soft, as I said. Get your hands nice and floury. And then we're going to do about 6 of these folds. 1, turn it, 2, 3, and you'll see it starts to come together into kind of a ball shape. Do one more for luck, and I'm going to turn her over and just make it into a ball shape, right, a dome. Then we're going to take a bowl with a tea towel, again just dust it with flour, and then we're going to put the dough back into the bowl, with the seam, so the underneath down, so it's facing down like that. Then we're going to put that back in the fridge for at least 1 hour, but for as long as you like. I mean, it can go in there for 12 hours, 24 hours for a slow fermentation, but it needs to go in at least 1 hour to set the structure as it is now. So we're going to put that back in the fridge and come back to the most exciting bit, which is baking it off. Okay, see you later. Okay, so the dough's been in the fridge, resting and rising for a couple of hours. As long as it's had an hour, that's great, but if it's had a bit longer, then that's also fine. So now you can see it's risen, it's got some lovely bubbles. So ideally you need a pan like this, or a casserole dish, or something that's that can go in the oven with a lid. If you don't, you can put it straight into a baking tray, but if you have one of these, then that's great, you'll get a much better result. Okay, so we're just going to lift the bread out of its floury tea towel, turn it over and plonk it in to the dish, which, as you can see, is lined with a little baking parchment. We then need a sharp knife or a razor blade or a Stanley knife or something like that, and we're just going to do one score through the dough, quite deep, about 1 centimetre deep. Okay, you can do a different pattern if you want, but that's now our finished product. This is going to go into the oven at 250 degrees, so a hot oven, for 20 minutes with the lid on, and then after 20 minutes we're going to take the lid off and give it another 30 minutes in the hot oven, and then the bread should be ready. Okay, see you later. Okay, so 20 minutes the bread has been in the oven, so we're just going to take the lid off. Okay, you can see that it's kind of risen, set its shape. Okay, you can see the cut that's split, and now we're going to give it 30 minutes without the lid. Okay. Okay, so after another 30 minutes in the oven, uncovered, it looks like we've actually created a really beautiful sourdough loaf. So I'm just going to give it a bit of a pat. Yeah, it feels crisp, it sounds hollow, so I think that's done. So we're now just going to transfer it over here, let it sit for a moment just to take the temperature off, and then we're going to put it onto the cooling rack where it needs to sit for at least 1 hour. Don't be tempted to try and cut it beforehand because it's still cooking, the residual heat's still cooking the dough inside. And there we have it, our first sourdough bread.